In a previous video I built this blower and it's quite powerful, and I want to use it to build a dust collector. I'm going to use this cyclone that I built in another video, and that's going to go roughly here, and the air goes into the cyclone, separates most of the dust, and then I need to filter it. And for that I'm going to use two rigid shopback filters, and those are going to fit into this box here, and I still need a manifold to connect that to the blower. And I built this manifold earlier, except I didn't quite do this right, so in this video I'm going to build it again and I'll show you how. The filters need to mount right about here, and I've already cut all the pieces for this because that's not that interesting. So the base of the manifold is going to be this part here, and then this goes on top. I'm going to build a box around here. So I've got this part here that directs the air. I think that goes backwards. That directs the air over this way, and then when this part goes on here, we have all the air has to come from these holes. There's hopefully no leakage, and this is even beveled here so that we have room for the bucket. And then the filters go on here, and the box around everything. Last time I cut this part here, I did a fancy bevel cut to connect from here to here without going through here, but it's thick enough I had to make it out of 2 layers anyway, so this time I just cut the cutout and then added the second layer. I think that's adequately clamped now. If you don't have that many clamps, you could just use a brad nailer or screw it together. This part is going to glue on top of here, and while I'm waiting for the glue to dry, I'm going to attach the mounts for the filters here. I cut out these conical pieces just by making a bevel cut around a circle with a bandsaw, and that's sized to just fit inside the rubber here. So if I screw these onto here, that will make a place to jam the filter on. The filters are going to fit inside the box on these conical mounts, like so. And to keep them from eventually just kind of dropping down from gravity or coming loose, I've got this part here, and that also plugs the hole in the bottom of these filters, and that keeps them from sliding down. And the air from the cyclone is going to come through this elbow here into here, but the problem is a cyclone, if you forget to empty the bucket, can get full of shavings and just pass everything. So to keep the filters from getting completely gummed up with shavings when that happens, I'm adding this bug screen in here, and the whole idea is this area is going to get plugged up before the filters get full of shavings. And to hold this bug screen in place, I'm going to glue some bits of wood in here to give it a support rail for sliding in and out on. I'm using a piece of wood that's cross-grained because all the grain in this wood is running this way, and that way the shrinkage and expansion will be compatible between the two. If the grain went this way, then it would eventually work its way loose. Now with the glue dry on this part, I'm ready to glue this layer onto it, and I'm going to do that resting on top of this piece of plywood here, because that will make it easier to get the clamps in under it, and it also helps make sure there's no twist in it because this thicker plywood is much stiffer. And again, I have to wait for that glue to dry. A tricky part of the design is how this is going to attach on here, because I can't just screw to that plywood very well anymore because I've covered it up. And I thought about screwing it from this side, but that blocks access to the screws for screwing the cover on here. So I don't want to do that either. I thought about using bolts through here, through the whole case, but that's not a good idea because those will probably work their way loose eventually. So what I've realized then is that I can actually still screw through the holes in here. So I put some screw holes right below where the filters are, and I'm going to use some very small screws because the front of this blower is not very thick, and with these screws I will just barely not screw into the inside of it. But before I screw this manifold to the blower, I need to glue this box to the manifold. And now I have to wait for the glue to dry again. Isn't this exciting? I glued on a strip of felt here just to make sure I get a good seal. And now I can join these guys up.